Have you got a baby? Or are you thinking of having one? Reza and I don't have babies, but not knowing anything about a subject has never stopped us speaking about it before. So, in response to a listener question, here's an episode about baby vocabulary. Welcome to
Aprender Inglés with Reza and Craig.
Hello, my name's Craig.
And my name's Reza.
And Reza and I have been helping Spanish speakers with their English for nearly 50 years. So we can help you improve all aspects of your English, your grammar, your vocabulary, and your pronunciation, taking everything up to the next level. How are you doing, Reza?
I'm fine, Craig. I can't complain. As people like to say in Britain, I can't complain. How are you?
I can't complain either. Not too bad.
I'd like to be able to complain, but I've got nothing to complain about.
If only I could complain about something. Let's get going this week with a voice message from Marcela from Argentina.
Hi Craig, hi Reza. I'm Marcela from Argentina. Several days ago I listened to your podcast about age and you made me laugh a lot because, like Craig, I'm in my middle 50s and also I have had my senior moment. In fact, more often than I'd like to admit. Well, I teach math and chemistry to teenagers and this keeps my brain working. But isn't enough, and I decided to learn English by myself. I have been doing that for 2 years, and although it's too hard for me, I'm trying. I want to tell you, in Argentina, to describe an old person, we say he's or she's older than Matusalem. You'll see, at least in my country, the young people rarely use idioms and even don't understand some of them. Well, thanks for your funny and useful podcast. I enjoy it. It's my favorite tool to practice and improve my poor listening skills. And remember, the real age is in our minds. You and me aren't over the hill, are we? A big hug for both of you. Bye.
Thank you very, very much, Marcela, for your message. Wasn't that lovely pronunciation Marcela has?
Very good pronunciation. Marcela, did I understand you? You said you've been learning for 2 years? Wow, your pronunciation is really good for 2 years, isn't it?
It is fantastic. And Marcela was talking about a podcast we did recently about age with some expressions and idioms connected to age and aging. You can find that on inglespodcast.com/257. Just one small thing, Marcela. You said middle 50s. We don't say middle 50s. Normally we say mid 50s, just MID. So mid 40s, mid 60s, mid 40s, mid 50s, etc.
I really liked Marcela's use of some expressions. She said, for example, that we're not over the hill yet. We're not too old. Not yet. Not over the hill.
Not quite yet. No, there are a few years left in us still, I'm pleased to say. Yeah, she did use some of the expressions we spoke about in that episode. So well done, Marcela. That was very, very good.
Craig, we also have some written feedback, and it's also from Latin America. It's an email from Ronald Espinoza Mora from Costa Rica, and he's a Patreon supporter. Thanks very much, Ronald, for being a Patreon supporter.
Yeah, thanks, Ronald.
Shall I read out his email?
Let's read it together, maybe one paragraph each, because it's quite long. I'll do the first paragraph and we can offer some suggestions on a way to improve your writing, Ronald. So if you want to have a look, go to the show notes at inglespodcast.com/264, where we have written these corrections for you. The first paragraph says, "Hi, hello guys. Nearly 6 months ago, I know about your podcasts when looking for podcasts in iTunes, came across I Find One episode. Let me improve that for you. Better to say, I came across your podcast nearly 6 months ago when I was looking in iTunes. So to come across is to find by accident. Well done on using that phrasal verb, Ronald. I came across your podcast nearly 6 months ago.
Ronald continues. Since this day, I listened to all your episodes, some old episodes. You really have many posts cast since 2010. We need to improve that a little bit, Ronald. You should say, I've been listening. So that's from the past up to now. I've been listening to your podcasts since 2010.
And if you go to episode 18, Ronald, you can listen to some practice with the present perfect simple, and present perfect continuous. So for some revision to revise and improve that tense, go to inglespodcast.com/18.
He carries on. Let me tell my story and motivation for to learn. We don't say for and to together, just to learn. The reason why you do something, infinitive, to learn. To learn and to improve my English. I'm 43 years old. I'm a software engineer. I know many vocabulary. Hold on there, Ronald. Vocabulary is uncountable, so we cannot say many. Many goes with plural. Many books, many cars.
Many words.
Many words. So uncountable, we could say a lot of vocabulary, and understand more or less the articles in English. He means the words a, and the articles in English. But to talk and to tell my speak, or he means, but talking and expressing myself in the right way, in grammar and time, is very hard for me. He said for me. My is possessive, my book. Me is person, me. Very hard for me.
And Ronald continues, I have a daughter, Miranda. Hello, Miranda, if you're listening. She's 11 months old. And when she did born, that's not correct. When she was born, okay? When she was born, I decided to only talk with she. And here you need her. So you need to revise your pronouns, your personal pronouns. Only talk with her in English. And my wife will only talk Spanish with her. We hope when she'll be 3 or 4 years old, she'll be bilingual would be better. This is my motivation to learn English.
Oh, that's very, very good motivation, Ronald. We're impressed.
Yep.
Let's carry on with his email. Now she knows the basic colors in both languages. 2, she know, we have to change that. She also knows the basic questions like, what's your favorite color? And what does the cow say?
The cow says moo. I know that. The cow says moo.
Or how many years old, or how many years old you'll be on May the 9th. That must be the birthday. She can point to some things like a fridge, or Americans would say refrigerator, a big picture, the windows, or the door, etc. I only to sing. I don't know why you say to here, Ronald. We don't need to. I only sing, watch, dance to videos or song in English with her. Not she, again, with her is the pronoun.
In some episodes, I find some advice about this topic. Even your recommendation to English for Families website, that's good. I really appreciate it. But I think this is not enough for my. Again, that pronoun, you have to revise that. For me, not enough for me. Can you make a special episode about vocabulary of babies, 6 months to 24 months? Thank you very much for your idea, Ronald. And as I said before, the improvements that we suggest are in the show notes for episode 264. Yeah, Ronald mentions the website that we have spoken about before. And I also did an interview with Alex Purdell, who has a website and a podcast about raising your children in a bilingual environment. So if you'd like to listen to that episode, which is in Spanish and English, there's a link in the show notes. It's Enclave de Podcast. It's a podcast I did with Pilar Ortiz, and Alex Perdel's website is called Aventura Bilingüe Podcast at creceringles.com. So go to have a look at that, because if you are thinking of or actually raising your children in a bilingual way so that they'll improve their English from a very young age, you will find that interview and his website very useful. There are other links to other resources in the show notes. One is Wow English TV, which is a YouTube channel that I like very much, and The Go-Jetters, which is a BBC production for very, very young learners.
If you're interested in those, you can see the addresses, and there's a link in the show notes. Also, of course, you've got the very well-known BBC Learn English for Kids, which is a website specifically for younger people, kids to learn English. As well as that, they have their own YouTube channel. You can see the address in the show notes.
Ronald finishes his email with some questions for us. His final questions are: number one, is it right to use contractions when I talk with my daughter? Like you're, I'm, she'll, they'll. Well, I would say yes. I think it's really good to use contractions because that's how we normally speak.
Yep. In fact, it's only in very few occasions that we don't use contractions when we speak. So it's the most common way to speak.
Yeah. So yeah, use contractions, Ronald. And his second question, do we have a paid course on our website for me? He's an advanced beginner. We have free courses on the Mansion Inglés website. Go to mansioningles.com. We have different levels, including beginners, very low levels, so that will take you up to advanced, completely free. If you would like a paid audio course, we do sell audio courses, and the address for that is store.mansioningles.net. So you've got a free option and a paid option there.
He also asks, what do you think about the courses online? Then he repeats that mistake, for to learn. Remember, no for. The reason, just to. Courses online to learn English. And he gives the examples of Lingoda, Open English, Cambly, and one more we'll talk about in a minute. Have you heard of any of those three, Craig?
I've heard of Lingoda. Well, yeah, I mean, these websites, these courses, yes, some of them are really, really good. I would suggest if there's a free option to try for a limited time, sometimes you get 2 weeks or 1 month to experiment and try with the service, then do that first, especially if it's an app. So if it's an application on the computer or the phone, try the free version first, and if you like it, then pay for it. But of course, we have a sponsor called italki, which we recommend because we've used it before and we know that there are some very, very good, highly qualified teachers on italki. And one thing we like about it is that it gives you the option to choose your teacher. So if you pay for one lesson and you're not particularly happy with the method of the teacher, you change your teacher and you go to somebody else. So it's very, very flexible. And it's probably the fastest way to become fluent if you cannot go to a language academy or if you're not in an English-speaking country, because human teachers are the best way to learn. You make more progress with a human teacher. The lessons on italki will be customized for you by the teacher according to your learning style and what goal you have, why you want to learn English. Just register on the website, choose a teacher, use the videos to get a feel or an idea what kind of teacher you're looking at before you go ahead and pay, and then schedule your lesson and connect on Skype. If you're interested to try this, go to inglespodcast.com/264, click the italki link, and if you use that link, italki will give you a $10 credit to use when you pay for your first lesson. There are more details over there, so thank you very much, italki, for sponsoring this podcast. Reza, baby vocabulary. Let's look at some words that could be useful if you have a baby or if you're speaking about babies.
Well, I guess the one verb we identify most with babies is to cry. Babies cry. C-R-Y. Whenever they are not happy for some reason, maybe they're hungry, thirsty, tired, they do cry a lot.
Yes, they do. And if they cry a lot, then you could use a verb which is not so common, to bawl. B-A-W-L. To bawl, which is llorar a gritos, when they really, really cry. You can say the baby's bawling because he's really, really hungry.
One way you might stop the baby from crying or bawling is to cuddle him or her, or give him a cuddle. So to cuddle or a cuddle, it can be a verb or a noun, is un abrazo, a cuddle. Now, I'm sure you've heard of another word, which is hug, which is also abrazo. How would you distinguish, Craig, between cuddle and hug?
Well, if I hadn't seen you for a long time, I might give you a hug, but I wouldn't give you a cuddle.
I'm pleased to hear that. I'm relieved.
I was thinking about this, and I don't know if you agree. I think a cuddle is more changing positions and maybe being in the embrace of the person for a longer time, moving your hands and moving your arms around. Whereas a hug, you just embrace somebody, embrazar, and it could be a long hug, but then you let go and you release. Do you agree with that?
Yes. So a cuddle is more personal, it's closer, more informal in a way. For example, say at a sporting event you win a medal and they present you with the medal. They might give you a hug as they present the medal to you, but they're not going to give you a cuddle.
No.
They give you a hug. It's quite a formal situation. They'll just put their arm around you quickly and that's it. But with your girlfriend, boyfriend, your son or daughter, or
Your
something
dog.
like that, your dog, you'll give them a cuddle. You'll move around a bit. It's more intimate.
Hey, give me a cuddle. Have I ever hugged you?
Yes. Yeah, you have. And I'm happy to say that you've never cuddled me. Well, I'm happy enough with just hugs. We don't need to cuddle.
Before I moved to Spain, I used to feel quite uncomfortable hugging other men, but since I've lived in Spain, sometimes it seems quite normal. I'm quite happy with it.
Oh, by the way, the word cuddle can also be an adjective, cuddly. If something is cuddly, you want to cuddle it. So babies are very cuddly. You just want to cuddle them. They're perfect for cuddling. We also talk about a cuddly toy. Un peluche, I think it's Spanish. You know,
Teddy bear.
Teddy bears, the sort of things that you just want to cuddle. They're cuddly. A cradle is cuna in Spanish. That's the place where you put the baby to help it sleep. Maybe for a little nap, a siesta. Maybe not all night. At night, you might put the baby in a bed, or you might leave it in a cradle, or in a cradle by day and in a bed by night. So C-R-A-D-L-E is a cradle.
And there's that expression, from the cradle to the grave, from when you're born until you die. For example, health insurance. You could get health insurance which covers you from the cradle to the grave, all of your life.
Craig, do you wear nappies?
Sorry?
Do you wear nappies?
Do I wear nappies? Not yet. Maybe in a few years. Because life is a cycle. So you begin life as a baby wearing a nappy. And then maybe if you're unfortunate, when you're older, you need a nappy again. So a nappy is pañal. In British English, it's a nappy, N-A-P-P-Y. In American English, it's diaper, D-I-A-P-E-R, diaper. Have you ever changed a nappy?
Never.
Me neither.
It's something I've never done. And I'd like to. I'd like to see how difficult it is.
Why?
Just to see if I could do it. See if it's easy or not.
These days, you just throw them away. You don't wash them, so you just, yeah.
Well, you still got to change. You still got to take it off, clean the baby's bottom a little bit, and then put the new one on, right?
That's not on my bucket list. That is not a thing I would like to do.
So Craig and I, of course, as babies, we have worn nappies. And we expect in about another 15, 20 years, we might have to wear them again. Because life is a cycle.
If you're traveling with your baby, you'd probably need a car seat or a baby seat. That's a very small seat that you put in the back of the car to keep the baby safe. A baby seat or a car seat.
Yeah. As we said, we've never changed a nappy. You can also just say the expression to change a baby. Now, don't be alarmed. That doesn't mean that if you don't like your baby,
You change it for another
you can
one.
go to a shop and get a new one. No, it's not that easy. And when your baby's crying a lot, you might want to do that, but you can't do that.
Don't change your baby. Keep the same one.
So when we say change a baby, we mean change a baby's nappy or diaper. Yeah. Craig, where might you change the baby?
Well, you go to places sometimes that have changing tables, especially if you're in a restaurant or a public toilet, or even in airplanes, they have a folding table, a table that folds down where you can change the baby. That's called a changing table. So if you're in a public place or a bar or a restaurant and you need to change your baby, just ask for the changing table. Where can I change the baby? And you probably have a changing mat, M-A-T. That's a hygienic mat that you can place the baby on when you're changing him or her.
Another crucial object for babies is their bottle. B-O-T-T-L-E. When we talk about baby's bottle, we presume is full of milk. It's probably got milk in it.
In American English, they might say formula, baby formula. I think it's a powdered formula they use to put in the bottle. Yeah.
Well, of course, it might be that. It might be formula, but it could be real milk. It could be mother's milk.
Yeah.
The mother can put her milk in the bottle, or it could be formula.
And we spoke about cuddly toys earlier. They are often stuffed animals, animals that have been stuffed. To stuff, S-T-U-F-F, means to put something inside another thing. So these animals have been stuffed with something soft. That's why they're a stuffed animal. Of course, babies can also play with building blocks to make things, or mobiles, not phones, they don't have a baby phone. A mobile is something that turns around. So very often above the baby's cradle, there may be something that turns around, a circular mobile, to keep the baby occupied and watching something. When you were young, Reza, did you have a favourite cuddly toy?
I didn't have a favorite. I had 2 or 3 that I liked, but I didn't have one specific favorite. I was a big fan of Humpty Dumpty. I had a Humpty Dumpty cuddly toy that I really liked. It was like a big kind of egg-shaped fat man with a couple of very thin legs and arms attached. So it looked like an egg with 2 arms and legs. That was Humpty Dumpty. I quite liked him. Did you have one?
I did. I had a monkey, a brown monkey called Ferdinand, and I called him Fergie. And he was a cuddly toy, very soft and very cuddly. And he had a plastic face with a nose that you could push in. So I used to push his nose in. He looked really funny when I pushed his nose in.
And who came up with the name Ferdinand?
Oh, I can't remember. I mean, I was maybe 19, 20 at the time, so I don't remember. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. I was very, very young.
Now, Craig, people often accuse me, quite rightly, of being a dummy.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
I can't believe that.
I am a dummy.
What's a dummy?
Estupido, imbécil. But of course...
No.
Yes, of course. But there is another meaning of dummy, which is more relevant to this episode. A baby's dummy. Or in American English, they would say a pacifier, because it pacifies. It makes the baby quiet and calm. It's el chupete in Spanish. When I was a kid, I don't know if this is politically correct, but when I was a kid, people called it a dummy tit. We added the word tit.
Really?
But I'm talking about my parents, and in polite society, it was okay to say, give the baby the dummy tit.
That might be a Belfast
It
thing.
might be Belfast thing, yeah.
Yeah.
I dare say it's not politically correct these days. we said exactly what it was, because it is a dummy tit. It's una teta falsa.
Yeah, because dummy can also be something that's imitating something else. You could have a dummy driver or a dummy something that's an imitation of the real thing.
That's why it's called dummy.
Yeah.
That's the reason why. It's supposed to be like sucking a breast, which is what babies do to get the milk. That's why they call it a dummy.
We said before that babies sleep in cradles. They also sleep in cots or cribs. Cot, C-O-T, crib, C-R-I-B. All of those words, places where babies sleep, beds for babies. We think the difference is a cradle often rocks, it moves from side to side to help the baby sleep. But all of those three words would describe a baby's bed.
Maybe with a cot or crib, to distinguish it from a bed, it will probably have sides on it which protect the baby so it can't fall out. So a bed doesn't have any sides. The baby could roll and fall onto the floor and hurt itself. But in a cot or a crib, there will be sides which maybe you can lift up or put down whenever you want to protect the baby.
Yep, absolutely. If you're eating with your baby, maybe your baby is, well, definitely your baby's not big enough to sit properly on a chair. So you need a high chair to put at the table so your baby can eat with you. High chair. That's quite an easy compound noun. High, alto, chair, silla, high chair. Or sometimes a booster seat, because to boost means to make stronger or make more. So if you're boosting the baby's position, then the baby's raised higher. So if you're in a restaurant and you need a chair for your baby, ask for a high chair or a booster seat.
Craig, can you remember as a child eating with a bib? B-I-B. What is that?
Bib is babero, and I have a funny story about a bib, but it's not when I was a child. Have you ever eaten calçots?
Oh, that Catalan thing.
Yeah.
Calçots, yeah.
From the Tarragona area.
Oh, lovely. Delicious.
I think spring onions cooked on a charcoal grill with a special romesco sauce. I took my dad to a restaurant in Catalonia to eat calçots, and they give you a bib. And my dad didn't understand why the waiter gave him a bib. Because the calçots are very messy with the sauce and the charcoal, and you get your clothes dirty. And my dad said, "Why did they give me this bib?" And I said, "It's because you're English, Dad."
And he believed
And he believed it. He thought he didn't know how to eat properly. They'd given him a bib.
Was he offended at that?
No, he laughed. But
he realized you were pulling his leg later.
I was pulling his leg. Tomando el pelo. I was pulling his leg. So
I bet he's glad he wore the bib.
yeah, it's very messy. Very, very messy.
He would have ruined his clothes.
And they serve them on roof slates. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Oh, I love them. They're great.
What's a playpen? Is it a pen that you play with?
It's not. You cannot write with a playpen because the word pen can be an enclosed area, an area which is closed off. So a playpen is a small area which is completely sealed. Yeah, it's closed for babies to play in, so they can't hurt themselves.
So we've told you where babies play, where babies sleep, where babies eat when they're having a meal. But what do you do when you want to move your baby from one place to another? What's the name of that thing that you push them around in? You know, that chair that you push them in? Well, it's a push chair. A baby's push chair is a chair with wheels. However, there are other names that can be used for a push chair. What are they, Reza?
A very common word which means the same as pushchair is pram. P-R-A-M. Pram. Which apparently is a contraction of perambulator.
That's right. That's a very old-fashioned word.
To perambulate is to walk in very old-fashioned English, so perambulator. But we don't say that these days. We just say pram, P-R-A-M.
There's an expression that was said to me a lot when I was growing up in London, because it's a very London expression. If you get very annoyed and very angry and you start shouting and screaming at someone, they might say to you, "Okay, get back in your pram. Calm down." Get back in your pram means don't be a baby, don't cry, don't bawl, don't scream. Just relax and chill out. Get back in your pram.
Yeah. Another way to say pram is baby carriage, but it sounds more formal. In London, they wouldn't say get back in your baby carriage.
No.
It wouldn't have the same effect. The word pram sounds much better because it's more informal.
There's a verb which means to walk along in a very slow, leisurely way. It's to stroll, S-T-R-O-L, to stroll. I'm going for a stroll along the beach. Well, a stroller, just add ER, a stroller, is another name for a pushchair or a baby carriage, a stroller.
And the last one we have is buggy, B-U-G-G-Y, a buggy. A baby's buggy. There are other types of buggy. For example, a beach buggy is kind of a small car which is specially adapted so that you can drive on the sand. But here, we're not talking about that. We're talking about a baby's buggy.
All of those words mean carrito or sillita de paseo, pushchair, pram, baby carriage, stroller, and buggy.
Craig, what do you call that thing that babies like to have in their hand and they shake? That's sacudir. They shake their hand to make a noise.
That's a rattle, R-A-T-T-L-E, rattle.
And some of you, particularly if you've been to North America, you might have heard of a rattlesnake. It's a snake, un serpiente, and it makes a sound with its tail, which sounds just the same as a rattle like what a baby has. So it's like a kind of warning. You hear this rattling sound, meaning like, don't come any closer, I'm going to bite you. That's a rattlesnake.
When you want to clean your baby, it's quite useful to have some baby wipes. Wipe, W-I-P-E, is kind of means limpiar, to wipe something. So a baby wipe is a wet towel that you can use to clean your baby. And to make sure your baby's skin stays soft, use some baby lotion, and then baby powder, which is talco para bebés, baby powder.
Do you know, I used to use baby powder well into my adulthood.
I still do sometimes for my feet.
I like baby. Yeah, it's great for feet, and also it can be great as a deodorant under your arms. What I like about it is it keeps you really dry.
Yeah.
Much better than a liquid or a roll-on deodorant. I think it works better, don't you?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's why they give it to babies, because for babies you want the most effective product.
And it's a lovely feeling when you're out of the shower and you dry your feet and you put baby powder on your feet and then put your feet into socks. It's a lovely, smooth feeling and you feel like you're spoiling yourself. To spoil is mimar, which is also something you might do with your baby, to spoil your baby.
Although you don't want to do it too much, though. You want to be nice, but not too nice, because if you use it as an adjective, a spoilt, with a T at the end, it's irregular. Spoiled, spoiled, spoiled. A spoilt baby is not a good thing. So to spoil your baby a little bit's okay, but if we talk about a spoilt baby, that means you're giving it too many things. That's not good.
Do you think you spoil your dog?
A little bit. I think Coco, the dog, gets spoiled a little bit.
Yeah.
But he's like a big baby.
He deserves it.
Although he's 95 years old, he's kind of like a big baby.
One thing that Coco likes and babies like too is to rub the baby's back or pat the baby's back. To pat is to tap lightly on the back of the baby.
And the reason you do this is to bring up wind. So we're not talking about el viento, the wind in the street or on the beach.
The wind inside the body.
The body, yeah, that gas which all humans get. And sometimes babies aren't quite sure how to get rid of theirs. So we give them a helping hand. We pat or rub their back to bring up the wind. Or you could also use the verb to burp, B-U-R-P, or belch, B-E-L-C-H.
Which is what some people do at the end of a very big meal. They burp.
Craig, we mentioned earlier a cradle. You can move a cradle maybe from side to side. This helps babies go to sleep. What's the verb for that?
To rock, R-O-C-K, to move from side to side is to rock. So rock and roll your baby. So there's some vocabulary for you. We hope that's helped you to speak about babies and communicate when you're traveling with a baby. Now, when you're bringing up your baby to be bilingual, here are a couple of things that we suggest you do with your baby, although, disclaimer, we're not experts on this. I refer you to Alex Purdel's podcast for that. But it's a good idea to read to your baby or to your child in English. Read something so they get used to English, they get used to the words. That's a very good idea. And play them this podcast. That might even send them to sleep.
As well as reading, you can talk with them in English every day. Talk to them, and who knows, they might start to answer you back in English. They might respond by repeating some of your words.
And when they do respond, correct their speech. If you hear your children speaking English and you notice some mistakes, make sure you correct them, get them speaking with better grammar, with more vocabulary, and help them to develop their English on a day-to-day basis.
Of course, it's very important to play games with babies. Babies love games. Why not play games with them in English? You can use the internet for resources. There are so many internet sites out there which have free games for you to use in English.
Yeah, we mentioned some at the beginning of this podcast, but if you do a search for baby games or games with kids or children's games, young children's games, you'll find lots of resources on the internet and on YouTube. And sing songs with your baby. If you can't sing, use a recorded song, what we call in English nursery rhymes, those rhymes that have music and that young children like to sing along with, and try to get them singing with you as you sing songs to them.
There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of those on internet, especially YouTube. Just go to YouTube and type in something like baby songs or nurseries or rhymes or music for baby to sleep or something like that.
And please let us know if you're trying to bring up your children bilingual and you have experience with babies in English. We'd love to hear your feedback so that we can pass it on to other people who have babies and would like to do this. So let us know. You can send your feedback by voice message at speakpipe.com/Ingles podcast. That's SPEAKPIPE. Or an email. Reza, how can they reach us by email?
There are two addresses for email. There's craig@inglespodcast.com or belfastreza@gmail.com.
And before we go out the door this week, we'd like to thank all our wonderful patrons. Special thank you to Bruno, our gold sponsor, with walking tours of Copenhagen in English and in Spanish. If you're going there, if you're thinking of going to Copenhagen, why not check out Bruno's tours? You can find more information at copenhagenwalkingtour.com. And for Rio de Janeiro, Bruno has a tour operating there also. That's at favelawalkingtour.com.br. And those tours in Rio are very safe. They are run by local guides and they help the community to improve their daily needs.
If you're interested, maybe you could become one of our Patreon sponsors. You can do that for as little as just $1 per month. For that $1, you'll get instant access to recent audio transcriptions, which are done by Angelica. Thanks very much, Angelica, as always. If you're interested, have a look at Patreon. That's Patreon, patreon.com/Ingles podcast.
And we'd like to welcome our new Patreon supporters this month who have recently joined us. And they are Jaime Gallego, Kendi Aparecido Osiro, Dani Palacios, Javier Ruiz, José Ignacio, Ile Chomps, and Ramon Roldan. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us on Patreon and continuing to support this podcast. What's next week, Reza?
Next week, we have a very good question. Why do the British drive on the left?
That's a very good question. We'll be answering that next week. That question from Alberto and more of your questions about grammar, vocabulary, and all aspects of your English. So keep sending us your questions. And thank you for listening this week. Join us next week. Until then, it's goodbye from me.
And bye-bye from me.
The music in this podcast is by Pitts. The track is called See You Later.